Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Aurobindo Raya. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Aurobindo Raya. Dear friends, we had just now part of the video for PPT3, and then we came up to the point where we said that Shruti takes the devotee gently by hand and leads him or her. This is that mother nature of Indian culture, and it is so thrilling, it is so reassuring, it is so much soothing to each person that there is someone who is going to take care of him or her, no matter what. I remember one of the utterances of Shardama, when she said that I am the mother of virtuous, I am the mother of wicked. So whenever you are in distress, tell yourself that I have a mother. This has got so much significance. One, that Shardama had attained to that level where she could be mother of all. A small town in close to Calcutta, Kamapukur, where she spent most of her existence on earth, probably, and in Dakshineshwar somewhere. But she could be mother of all on the earth, all in India. She could be mother of those young disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, and the leader among them, Swami Vivekananda, later known as Swami Vivekananda, Harendranath Datta. This assurance, this faith, this piousness, and this compassion to take everyone holding his or her finger forward, that is the entire thing what we were discussing. And that is the reason Sri Aurobindo has said that it was when a educated youth of Calcutta bowed down in front of an illiterate pujari at the temple of Dakshineshwar, that was when it was clear that India is not just going to survive but going to conquer. He had very high regards for Sri Ramakrishna, Shardama, and Swami Vivekananda. Sri Aurobindo has time and again mentioned about this. The work that began at Dakshineshwar is not yet finished, he writes. In fact, it is not even understood. What was that work? That is what we are trying to understand through this small course, introductory course. Of course, as I said again, 1 month is hardly anything to do, cover this type of mammoth building of Sri Aurobindo's vision of Indian culture. Just giving you an overview and hoping that some of you will be more inclined, will be more inspired to take up a bigger study, a bigger courses which are going to be in the chain of this particular stream. In Indian culture, we have got so many courses, almost 20 courses are there. This is the first one, a introductory course. So those who are really getting inspired and getting interested to understand this great vision for humanity, for the world of tomorrow, they should definitely go through that. So that is what we were up to. We said that it does not easily bear the limitations, and even when it admits, it transcends them. And therefore we need to understand here what exactly is this difference. We are saying that each one is allowed to go up in his own way, and we know that he cannot come immediately at that experience. Shanai Shanai Ruparame Buddhyar Pratibhridya. So that means slowly only he can come. You have to take him step by step. and then only he can have some hope and some stamina to go up. A sudden rush to the caves, a sudden advocating of each one to take sannyasa is degeneration, it's confusion. All cannot become sannyasis, all cannot even become brahmacharis. That is why there has to be a step by step arrangement, and that is why he requires those lower supports while he is going up, some scaffoldings of dogma, worship, image, sign, and everything. If you see how all these things are constructed, that wherever he is from that point he should be able to come up. That's why you will see most of our rituals, so much of pleasure is given even to the senses. When you take a prasada, it is so tasty, it allows you to satisfy your taste buds. When you look at the arrangement of or decoration, you see so much of colorfulness, so pleasing to eyes, flowers and decorations, everything, huge rathas and mandapas, the temple architecture, so soothing to eyes, melodious to ears, very smooth and caressing touch to your skin, and aroma, incense of the doop and the agarbattis and everything is pleasing your nose. I mean, in short, every part of your physical being, your karmendriyas, are satisfied by these rituals and dogmas and step by step processes. Similarly, your jnanendriya, your inner organs also, your mind, your emotions, your intellect, that is also sufficiently satisfied. But for whom? For those who are seeking for that intellectual satisfaction. It is not made compulsory for all, because if you make it compulsory for all, half of the people will not take it, they will not understand it. So this was a very enlarging tradition, continuously enlarging tradition of Godward endeavor of the human spirit, Sri Aurobindo says. And that's why it fulfilled this purpose, unlike all other cradle religions who advocated one book, one prophet, one way. That doesn't work for human beings. All cannot be put under the same table of laws. That would mean a senseless geometric rigidity which will destroy life, which will destroy individuality. People cannot be simply cut to the size so that everybody can be fitted. That is a machine. Human beings are not machine. Human beings are not mechanical. And so it knew its purpose, that each one has to be allowed a way to take shape in its own way, as per his own nature, as per his own ordained duty. And that is his swadharma. He has to go up as per his swadharma. And Sri Krishna says that it is better to die in your own dharma rather than trying to imitate someone else's dharma. Swadharma nidhanam shreya paradharmo bhayavam. And that is why the religion which gave such broad understanding, claimed no universal adhesion, asserted no sole infallible dogma, set up no single narrow path or gate of salvation, made no such distinction like God and Satan, heaven and hell, saved and damned. It's never made such watertight compartments in human beings. So it had some right to call itself by the only name it knew, Sanatan Dharma, the religion eternal. It was an immense, many-sided, many-stage provision for spiritual self-building and self-finding. It had some right to speak of itself by the only name it knew, Sanatan Dharma. And only when you understand this, will realize that this is the land where religious spirit matters. The theological credo doesn't matter. It is a religious spirit. And that is what we are just mentioning about mother nature of this culture. That is exactly what Swami Vivekananda uttered in his Chicago speeches, when he said that I thank you in the name of the mother of religions. In Chicago speeches, if you go, in the third or fourth day he has read one paper. In fact, that was the only paper he prepared properly. All others were extempore. Of course, everything is great because for him there was no difference much in extempore and prepared one. But this one is a classic. The paper is called Paper on Hinduism. I request everyone to download it and just go through it. What is this idea of mother of religions? Swami Vivekananda explains, and what Sri Aurobindo or Swami Dayananda or all such stalwarts have taken forward, Swami Chinmayananda. This is that mother religion. And here the spirit matters, not the credo. And India also understood that intellectually just one of the paths to go to the divine. It is not the only path. Not everybody can enter to that path. That is one dwar, one mahadwara of buddhi can be kept. But there must be small, small dwars, there must be small, small gavaksh, there must be small, small windows through which even non-intellectuals also can enter. Even non-devotees can also enter. Even skeptics can also enter. So each one has to be allowed some way to enter inside. Because everything is basically a different facets of the same thing. However separated by intellectual distance, all such warring or the debating intellectual, you can say arguments also, somewhere are linked to the same thing. And that is why every such variation was allowed. There was always a debate of Purva Paksha and Uttara Paksha, and people tried to debate with each other, no doubt about that. But they knew the limitations of reason. They never thought that reason is such supreme thing that through that alone I can go. In one of his other books, Sri Aurobindo writes, I think in the Human Cycle he says that office and limitation of reason. There he explains that reason has got a role to play, but it has got severe limitations also, and our culture understood both. So that is the reason the luminous ascent in the Godhead was always held as to be a consummation which can be well within the reach of a human being. One cannot say that this was a depressing or pessimistic theory. Nothing can be more optimistic when a human being is said that he also can become Siddha, he can also become Mukta, he can also become God. It is possible, it is within your grasp, but it is not that easy. You have to strive for that, you have to struggle for that. And that is the way things have been really taken up. I think we have done some follow-up from the first video. As I told you, it's not possible that we can cover everything, but I am sure in both these videos you have got some good help. Thank you so much. Go through these things very well. Please try to take maximum from that. See the original book also, download that, and all the best to all of you. Thank you so much.